Hey PES students and families, my name is Miss Ashley Todd and I'm the counselor. In case you have not already noticed, starting this week we have been posting daily videos on Living Tree and our Facebook page. Miss Julie Griner started it off with a read aloud, and then Coach Millie posted a fun workout video, and then yesterday Mr. Jared had a great little magnet activity, and today you are going to be cooking with the counselor. So I am going to get started. What I really like about this recipe is that you probably have all of the ingredients on hand in your house. If not, these are fairly cheap ingredients. It doesn't take many, so hopefully this is something that you will have everything on hand and you will be able to make. I would love to see pictures of your 1 minute microwave cake in a mug when you get done making it, and hopefully it's delicious and you enjoy. So as you see, I have all of my ingredients gone ahead and laid out on the counter, so we're going to get started. What I like about this recipe is that it uses butter, but if you don't have real butter, you can just use margarine or whatever you have on hand. Also, it calls for vanilla extract, but I actually don't have any vanilla extract. I actually rarely use vanilla extract when a recipe calls for it. Vanilla flavoring works too. And then it does call for milk, but if you have an allergy, dairy-free milk works too. So there's a pretty good amount of substitutions in this recipe that will hopefully work for everybody. So I've got my recipe here, and we're going to get started. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. One of the other great things about cooking is that, and baking, is that it's a great way to have a little math lesson while you're doing a fun activity. So a stick of butter, for example, is made up of 8 tablespoons, and for math, you can convert that into how many cups would be half a stick of butter, or how many cups would be a whole stick of butter. So I'll just leave you with that, and that's a challenge that you can go figure out on your own. So I'm just going to cut 2 tablespoons off of this stick of butter and get you a nice little mug. I have my little sparkly Happy Everything mug that I'm going to use today. And we're going to, I've already washed my hands. Forgot to say that. First and foremost, before you start cooking, the most important thing is that you wash your hands with soap and water before you get started. Nobody wants to eat your cooking with dirty hands. Alright, so we're going to take our 2 tablespoons of butter in our mug, and we're going to go put it in the microwave just for a few seconds to let it melt. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to whisk in the milk, the vanilla, the egg yolk, and sugar. So we're going to start with 1 tablespoon of milk. So I've got my measuring tools here. So I'm going to find a tablespoon. I'm just going to pour a tablespoon of milk over there, pour it in my mug, and then I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm going to find my half teaspoon. And we're going to get that in there. And then we are going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of white sugar. I'm going to grab my sugar, and I'm just going to wipe out where the milk was so that the sugar doesn't stick to it. Alright, so there's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of white sugar. Set that to the side. And then I'm going to add my egg yolk. Now, I'm just going to use a whole cup measuring cup that I have here to do this. I'm going to crack it. We're just using the egg yolk, remember. So I only need the yellow part of the egg, not the white part of the egg. Or the clear part that would turn into an egg white. It would turn white if we beat it. Alright, so I'm just going to go back into between the shell to just get my yolk. I want to let all the egg white fall into the measuring cup. Alright, and then when I get that separated, I'm going to pour that in there. Now, it tells me to whisk this together. This technically is a whisk, and they do come in all different sizes. This happens to be the only size I have, which is obviously too big for the mug. So actually a lot of times when I'm cooking, I just whisk with a fork. So you'll just take a fork and you'll just kind of tilt it and you'll just go around and around really quickly until you can see that all of the individual parts are kind of mixed together. So before you could see the milk, you could see the egg yolk, you could see the little pile of sugar. So you just want to whisk that real good. Alright, I think that's whisked pretty good. Alright, next we are going to add our flour and our baking powder. Okay, so we need 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So I'm going to grab my flour and I'm going to level that off. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then my baking powder is a 1/2 teaspoon. Gonna get that and level it off as well, like the flour. Okay. And then I'm just going to whisk that together. Again, using the same fork. Make sure I get all that flour down in there. Kind of rake the sides of the cup so you can make sure you get everything incorporated. Give it another rake on the sides. Alright, I think I've got that all whisked together. Go the other way for a second. Okay, now, this is of course optional, but we're going to make a funfetti mug cake by adding some sprinkles. You could add any kind of sprinkles that you have. I just so happen to have rainbow sprinkles to match my rainbow cup. So I'm just going to toss in a few of those, as many as you like. Not too many, but enough to give it some color. Alright, so I'm going to stir those in. Now, you don't have to whisk those quite as hard as you've whisked everything else together. You just kind of need to stir them in so that they're not in a pile on the top. Alright, so once you have everything stirred together really good, I'm just going to kind of rake this off my fork and drop it back down in there. Alright, now here is time to cook our cake. So I'm going to take this to the microwave. And then I will come back and tell you a few things while we put it in there for 1 minute. Okay, so we've put our cake in the microwave for 1 minute. Just a few things to remember when you're baking. Baking tends to be you have to be pretty exact when you're baking. So like when I was dipping my flour, you really need to make sure that when you dip it in there, it'll be kind of mounded up. You need to even it off. So just kind of scrape something across the top, like I use the inside of the bag. Because when you're baking, it makes the difference if it calls for 4 tablespoons and you use the little mounded up part of every tablespoon. That could give you 5 tablespoons all in all, which would maybe ruin your recipe. Also, when you are cracking an egg to cook, you never really want to crack your egg over the bowl that you're mixing in. because you may get a little bit of shell in it, and nobody wants to bite into a crunchy shell when they're trying to eat a fluffy, soft cake. So that's why I cracked my egg over this measuring cup, so that if a shell did get in there, it would be okay. If though, however, you ever crack an egg over something and you do get a shell in it and you need to get it out, take 1/2 of your eggshell and dip it down in there, and shell attracts to shell, so that's an easy way for you to get it out. So also, last tip I'm going to give you before I go check our cake, because I just heard the microwave go off, is butter. If you're ever baking or doing anything, cooking in general, where you need softened butter or melted butter, it's going to be best if you leave it out room temperature for a little while so that it has time to soften, because of course it would make it melt quicker. So I'm going to go check our cake. So after a minute, I checked the cake and it was almost done, but around the edges I could see that it was still a little bit wet, so I put it in for 15 more seconds. It just depends on your microwave. You may do it for a minute at first, and then you may want to check it, and you could do it for up to 30 more seconds. So I'm going to grab a clean fork. If you would like to be fancy like Miss Ashley, you can add a little bit of vanilla ice cream to the top of your cake. So I'm going to add me just a tiny little scoop before I dig in here and let you see my cake. So I'm going to add just a little scoop on top. So here's the finished product. I don't know how well you can see. So I am going to dig in with a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of cake. Here, maybe now you can see it better. Perfectly cooked all the way through, fluffy. Let it cool for a minute and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you take the time to make this or make something on your own. And as always, please post a picture, because we would love to see what you're up to. Miss you guys.